So we've got a really good agenda for this evening, and we're going to start off with a welcome from Councillor Gasser. So, Councillor Gasser, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and please call me Judi, everybody. I like to be called that. So really lovely to see lots and lots of people online, and it's a bit of an experiment for us. So it'd be interesting to get your feedback afterwards. Does this work better for you, less well for you than meeting in person? So this is our 8th sustainability network. We launched in November 22, and we've been all over the borough. We've been in Battersea, Putney, Roehampton, Tooting, all over the place. We're always looking for venues. We're always trying to attract more people. So if you have a venue, could be a school, a church, a hall, whatever, anything that can fit up to about 100 people, we'd love to hear from you. And the whole point of the network is to bring together local residents, businesses, voluntary organisations, just individuals, anybody that cares, about sustainability, and that is lots of us, isn't it? Of course. And it's to share knowledge and have conversations together and inspire action and collaboration. And just, we're stronger together, aren't we? We can achieve much more together. So we've had very successful meetings so far. I'm sure tonight will be as well, and on into the future. Nice to see some familiar faces and names, and we've got some new people as well. So you're very, very welcome. Hope you're going to find it interesting. As Andrew said, we're going to be recording tonight's event. I hope that's okay. We hope to do the next one in person in June, July time. So as I said, let us know if you've got a venue you'd like to invite us to. So last year, we did some events around biodiversity, around retrofitting, which is basically making your homes suitable for the climate crisis, and adaptation and resilience. So that's how do we, the council, support our residents in times of climate crisis. So there was a big appetite from you guys for us to come back to you and to tell you more about what we are doing, the work, the strategy, the action plans, and give you a chance to talk, to input, to question, to discuss. So we've got some really great speakers tonight, which Andrew will introduce them right now, actually. So tell you about what's happening in the borough, and look forward to talking later on, listening to your views. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Gasser. So my name's Andrew Hagger. I am Head of Climate Change and Sustainability for Wandsworth. So a bit of an overview of today's session. So we've got some great speakers here to talk about the action that's happening in Wandsworth at the moment. So we've got Ellora, who's going to be speaking about Retrofit, so employment, economy, and what this huge net zero challenge provides from a female business lens. Then we've also got Stuart from Sustainable Ventures, the Spark Wandsworth program, which is a new program from Wandsworth Enterprise Hub to drive innovation in sustainability and also boost our green business economy. And then also we've got Shafkat, who is a climate microgrant awardee. So that's some community action inspiration for you to hear from somebody who's received a microgrant and has delivered some really, really cool stuff in the borough. We've also got some discussion around some of the stuff that we as a council are doing as well. So Torsten is going to be here to talk about the Biodiversity Action Plan, and I'm going to be talking about the strategies and action plans that we've developed. So we've got a retrofit strategy, adaptation resilience strategy, and also our brand new action plan. So I'll be speaking a bit about that. And then we're going to have a chance for discussions and then an open forum for questions, discussion, and stuff like that afterwards. We'll have time for questions after each speaker as well. So that's probably enough from me, especially because I'm going to be talking later on as well. So I'm going to hand over to start to Ellora Coupe. So Ellora, over to you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And a big thank you for letting me be here today. And I'm going to give you a quick snapshot. And it is a very quick snapshot of the work I do to give you plenty of time to ask questions afterwards. So my name's Ellora Coupe. I am the founder of Her Own Space, CIC. And we have a platform and community for professional women in the retrofit industry and also for women homeowners. I'm just going to ask for a slide change, please. If possible, from Rebecca. I can start. Hi, Rebecca. Sorry, if you can do a slide change, that would be great. No problem. I can keep going. So I have a short presentation to give you around the work I do and why I specifically focus on retrofit through the lens of women homeowners. Sorry, I think it's a slight delay on my part with the presentation, but that's perfect. Thank you. So my background is I worked within design and branding industry for many years. I always focused on consumer engagement and perception across really complex subject matters. But predominantly my background is interior architecture, and I'm professional in the retrofit industry. I managed a renovation consultancy for over 8 years in Wandsworth, and my father was also a builder in Wandsworth for over 35 years. So I set up two spaces, one Her Own Space, which is a Facebook community for women only that started in 2022, that we have over 3,500 women homeowners who across the country are managing home renovations. And our role is really to normalise retrofit and explain what sustainable solutions are. I also run a platform for very established professional women in the retrofit industry to enhance their collaboration, their training, professional development, and kind of provide that incubator for innovation that's still really needed within this sector. Next slide. So why I focus on retrofit is I'm profoundly passionate, and that's the best way to explain, on the benefits to women's health, specifically of retrofit. So I understand a lot about indoor air quality, how also we know a lot of links now in research to early perimenopause, hormonal imbalances, what indoor air quality does for us. And obviously a lot of these women's health issues apply to all homeowners, but I just feel very passionate about seeing it through the lens of women specifically. We obviously know retrofit has a huge impact on the risk of damp and mold in the home. Better mental well-being. We also know the stabilization of indoor air temperature also promotes more comfort all year round. And also, obviously, the reduction in noise pollution is something that a lot of women don't specifically know is a benefit of retrofit. Obviously, I'm fully aware that the climate impact is enormous, but I really do think the benefits of retrofit on women's health resonate significantly with women homeowners. Next slide, please. So I asked myself the question, what would happen if women homeowners had an exclusive, trusted, impartial community for retrofit support? Having worked in the industry, trust is a huge issue when it comes to understanding the options women homeowners or homeowners in general have. And I also thought about retrofit, even though that support's important, there's still all the aspects of a home renovation project that still apply. Next slide. So as we grew in terms of our occupants and members, we asked ourselves a kind of snapshot kitchen table survey in 2023, which is something we look to do at every few years. And we got, in 48 hours, just over 1,200 responses from all our members, which was, which energy efficiency upgrades do you intend to make to your home? In addition, we also gave space for those women to talk about the stories they have around what that means to them. And there was a really significant result, which was that 329 women felt there wasn't support in making energy efficiency decisions in the home. Only 24 women felt there was support in making energy efficiency decisions. Next slide. But the most important significant result was that 868 actually didn't even know or realize what making an energy efficient choice actually looked like. What does that even mean? Next slide. And so we had a number of stories from women across the country. And if you just do next slide, thanks, Rebecca. One of the aspects was there was a huge amount of confusion. When we talk about sustainable materials, people started to presume those were only applicable to ancient buildings. Retrofit sometimes feels like it's something that heritage buildings, it's more applicable to. So there was a huge confusion with homeowners and a lack of awareness that the building physics we now understand today apply across all archetypes. Next slide. Next slide again. Thank you, Rebecca. So some of the other stories that came out was a lot of confusion. over payback periods, grants and finance that's relative to energy upgrades. In Shireen's case, and she's actually a local, her biggest concern was the lack of honesty around grant schemes. She felt the regulators needed regulating. We hear easily a lot of the stories of people falling foul to government schemes, return on investments, promises that aren't kept, and how it's made homeowners wary of applying. Even for those who have gone through retrofit experiences, they are more wary now than they were before they did it first time round. Next slide. So it also was something that gave us an opportunity to write a really extensive list on what energy efficiency upgrades look like, and asking those homeowners, how many of these do you intend to do at any stage in the future? And it really highlighted the snapshot and the lack of information on what energy efficiency upgrades actually look like. For example, 0% of those even understood MVHR, which is one of the more complex technologies in retrofit. They didn't understand that some of these things were even energy efficiency upgrades. But it was a really good educational piece for this questionnaire, not in terms of what we gathered, but also people going, I didn't realize these were the number of energy efficiency upgrades someone could actually make in a home. Next slide. I think there's one, if we could just go back one, Rebecca. One again, if you could go back again, sorry. Oh no, if you could go forward, sorry, I think it's missing a few, hard to tell. That's fine. Sorry, if you could go back to the yellow slide, please. That's it. Stop there. I had a slide as well that showed more snapshots of the stories women had when they read this list of energy efficiency upgrades. And some of the most significant things were, I see now all these improvements I could make on my home, but how do I find the information to make these improvements in my home? How do I know what to do, what order to do things in? Another reason why I was very interested in why the women homeowners are a real opportunity for retrofit was because there's a lot of research showing that women make significant sustainable decisions in the purchasing they make generally day to day, whether it's beauty, clothing, home products, the food we put on the table. This is debatable, this statistics, but it actually says that 71% of women try to live more ethically generally day to day. And I felt, talking to a lot of the professional women we support in retrofit, they find that actually women can be the biggest barrier. They are the most skeptical. They are the ones who question how this impacts my day to day. How disruptive is this for me? It was almost a sense of, if we can support women, we can support everybody. Next slide, please. So the real significant issue is the ability for homeowners to make decisions and feel confident in retrofitting their home is there, but there's a significant gap then in how homeowners find the right people. What process does this look like? What retrofit standard exists? What incentives to support me to do this exist? Next slide. And so another aspect is, we really believe, and we work with Leeds University and their team at the School of Earth and Environment are fantastic at looking at the sociological approach to retrofit. And their research has been really profoundly impactful in the work we do with creating a community for homeowners, was that they felt the relationship approach shows that renovations aren't determined by isolated decision makers, but people are profoundly influenced by the relationships they have with friends and family and neighbours and community. There's nothing more powerful than seeing your neighbour do work and seeing the effects, the results, the impact, the success of a project. Next slide, please. And so the team there at Leeds have been a huge supporter of her own space. It doesn't mention retrofit. We knew it had to be a portal of support and entry for women homeowners to just address their urgent needs today. There's a lot of women doing renovation projects that just aren't aware of the options available. We wanted to create a sense of solidarity, make sure that people could act independently rather than feel that retrofit was being dictated to them. Next slide. And so there's things coming up we're always working on. We're relaunching checklists and guides for women homeowners, but we look at all aspects of a project, because even though women are focused on the retrofit and sustainable and energy efficiency approach now, more than ever, we've seen over the last few years, it's really important to still give them the information support they need on a sustainable kitchen choice, even right down to the tap, the tiles, the flooring, what type of glazing. Retrofit, and we joke a little bit in our community that we're not about the pretty pictures. We're not Pinterest. You don't see pretty pictures of beautiful finished kitchens. We see things like, is this gap too big? Is this too drafty? Is this window installed properly? Is the brickwork right? Is the rendering here? But those are actually the really, really important parts of renovation and retrofit work that often day to day we don't see supported. We have fantastic solicitors and construction lawyers in our space who say that, it's not about giving people professional advice. People are still told you have to seek professional advice when making the final decisions. But if this mitigates a huge amount of risk for women homeowners that often find at the end of a project that there was information they didn't know, there was gaps missing, they had a sense of lack of trust in all the parties involved, then we hope to do a big service in that aspect. So we still know a whole project approach is really, really important. And the other thing we really found is women aren't in need of project management tools. In fact, day to day, most women homeowners are project managing absolutely every aspect of their life. What we did feel they needed was actually just some guides and checklists so that they know the questions to ask, so those questions don't get missed, and they know how to monitor the success of what a retrofit project could look like, and they know a checklist of all the elements they need. So that's a really, really quick overview of who I am and what I do and why I do it. And I'll hand you back over to Andrew. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ellora. Do
Pleasure.
you have any questions? You can put questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and ask anything. So we've got an applause. We've got Kim.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you. That was absolutely amazing. I've never heard of her retrofit space before. I've done a couple of big renovations in Wandsworth for different houses that we've owned, and I would have loved to know about this. And that is my question, really. I mean, both of the properties that we've renovated are on council estates, and but I've never heard of this, and I've looked at for resort, like, what can we do to get the information that this exists out to people more efficiently? I mean, I've had inspectors from the council come over. Nobody's ever mentioned this before. Like, what could we do to improve access to this information?
Yeah, Her Own Space is a Facebook group. We felt as a platform, it's really important to be as easily available. Facebook still also is the only platform that really allows us to edit the occupant, as in women homeowners specifically. You can just join at any time. Our Facebook is free. There's no cost at all. We just feel it's really, really important to have an impartial space for people to ask questions. One thing that a lot of women homeowners still don't interestingly believe is that a lot of the professional women in this space, we have a rule: you can't advertise your services or products in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's something that we get bombarded with on a day-to-day basis. And I think people really appreciate knowing advice is impartial and is not sales related. But I think still in our community, people don't realize the caliber of professionals. We have lime plasterers, ventilation experts, heat pump engineers. We have some of the most incredible retrofit professionals across the country there to advise. But yes, simply join, share away. And her retrofit space specifically, the reason why we didn't put retrofit in Her Own Space is because we wanted to create a portal of entry for all women doing renovation work. But the truth is that not everyone has the funds, the incentive. But at least if they have a space for support, maybe they see projects being successful, maybe next time they will do a retrofit. So it's more of a kind of filtering portal, if that makes sense. And then her retrofit space is a paid membership for professional women getting training and CPD and very, very specific training and advice. But again, we know the workforce is something that's a huge shortage in retrofit. So we wanted to make sure there was a portal of support. Thanks, Kim. I hope that helped a little bit, but just join today on Facebook. Welcome you any day.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. It wasn't really quite my question, though. My question is like, it's just random chance that I ended up on this meeting. So my question is, can you advertise more maybe in the Wandsworth paper, or can you, I mean, is there something that you can do so that someone, like if I had seen this a year ago, it would have been brilliant. But how do you?
I'm a bit of a one-woman band. So my problem is I'm a CIC. I have funded the setup of this business. I do, honestly, I have absolutely limited funding in this. This is very much a passion project. So if anyone's willing to give us some free advertising in the local papers, I'm more than happy to accept. I do run Southfields Parents Network, and I do try and post on several of the local Facebook communities in Wandsworth and nationwide, because we are nationwide. But obviously it's really hard to reach everybody. And people are so suspicious as well of what things are until they join. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks. I think Judith Gasser had her hand up as well. So.
Hi, just to say, yes, let's publicise this. I'm just saying that to the officers on the call, let's just get this out through all our channels, because it's wonderful the work that you're doing, Ellora, and we need to let a lot of women know. So let's get it out every which way we can, please.
Thank you very much.
Great. We've got another hand up. Sorry, the name's not on the thing, but come in.
Hi, is it me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hi there. Hi, Ellora. Thank you very much for a great talk, etc. The title of this, and I've just joined and signed in, etc., is Together Wandsworth. Wandsworth has a huge amount of council property that has really serious problems with their buildings and the interiors. The tenants are very upset. There's mold on the walls, etc. It's called Together Wandsworth. Here's a good start for you. I mean, why isn't Wandsworth using you? I mean, you are obviously, you know how these things work. You know what should be done. Together Wandsworth, go for it. Wandsworth has got loads of property like this that needs dealing with, and you're dealing with just private women owners who can deal with it themselves.
Yeah, there's two facets to this, which is obviously the able to pay owner occupancy, and there's the council run social housing. Luckily, we have some amazing initiatives like the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund. We're in wave 3 of that now. That gives every housing developer council the choice to bid and apply for a huge amount of funding available to upgrade local council properties. We know that SHDF Wave 3 released just last week, and we see a lot of the councils, Wandsworth included, won those bids for social housing funding. So the appetite, the changes are happening in government. There are big waves being made. We do have women in our platform who are both doing social and able to pay, supporting those women in doing those applications for the councils. The bids are complicated, very time consuming. The one real shortages from a council and our point of view in the able to pay is just the workforce with the retrofit experience to actually undertake those bids. So we honestly today, if anyone wants to train in retrofit or has specific backgrounds in it, there's training and funding available for that, because we have a huge shortage in people at the moment to get those projects going.
So may I ask what this is about? Sustainability and Wandsworth Council, and you're promoting a private company yourself, which obviously is very good, excellent job for private individuals, for women who own their own buildings. I'm not sure how that fits in, or please someone else explain to me why I'm here to listen to this.
I can come in on that. So this is about showcasing lots of different things that are going on across Wandsworth. It's not going to solve every single aspect of sustainability in one go. This is the really good work that Ellora is doing around promoting female-led retrofit in a traditionally male-dominated space, and shining a lens on that, and that's looking at more of sort of an able-to-pay market. There's also the social housing element of it. Actually, later on in the presentations, I'm going to be talking about the retrofit strategy, which is looking at the approach we're taking around retrofit across the whole borough. And that'll talk a bit around some of the other things. There's also, I think Matthew has put something in the chat, which I just spotted, around Warm Homes Local Grant, which is about supporting those who are less able to pay as well. And that's direct government funding to help those people there. So I think we're going to stop because there's other people who have got their hands up. So Pat, you've got your hand up if you'd like to come in.
Let me just turn the mic on. Hi. Yeah, question. You obviously had really great communications with your community of women homeowners. I'm curious, how far did the issue of the kind of inevitability of environmental decline raise its head? I mean, I'm curious. I mean, genuinely curious. Did you get much feedback along the lines of, well, you know, at 2 and 3 degrees of warming, even fantastic retrofit in my Edwardian property is not going to protect me and my family?
I mean, that's the
feedback.
Yeah. I mean, Pat, that is the biggest question that keeps us all up at night. You know, making an impact generally in sustainability is something that extremely difficult and stressful. And my view is I'm a small part to play in a big play. If I can make an impact, if I can support just a small niche of the retrofit industry, I'm not going to be able to fix the entire problem. Climate issues, I work with Imperial and the Grantham Institute. We're highly aware, obviously, the temperature changes, and they're the ones that report to government from a scientific point of view on where we are each year. I do passionately believe that women's health resonates extremely strongly. If women homeowners can see benefits in retrofit that go beyond climate, and that makes them make decisions that they wouldn't normally be able to make, I feel that's doing as much as I personally can. The conversation around climate, if you look at the National Retrofit Hub, which are one of the best organizations around there, trying to really change the industry, they believe passionately that public awareness should be driven by being aware of the climate impact they make in these decisions they make. But the research is also showing that's not enough for homeowners to actually make that actual change. You know, I have very strong feelings about wanting to make changes, but sometimes I don't have the information. I don't have the money. I don't understand the incentives. So there are blockers that if I can remove a few of those, might hopefully make a difference, if that helps.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
We've got a question from Margaret, and then we're going to need to move on. But we can come back and discuss this later on. We've got like an open forum, so we can revisit some questions if you haven't had a chance to ask something yet. But Margaret, over to you.
Yeah, and I live in Wandsworth and actually did a renovation myself a couple of years ago. I had to research a lot on the different materials myself, and I can't say I really got that much information from the building regs department when they came out either. So it really was left to me to find out. I use sheep's wool, for example, for insulation. And I used, when the tiles were going down, a non-toxic adhesive. And one of the questions that came up from the tiler, and he said, the thing is, these new materials, which are great, but customers need confidence in them, because the tried and tested materials that have been around years that tilers have been using, I'm just using that as an example, that's really hard to sort of give that up, because they don't really know the longevity of some of the let's say less harmful adhesives. And as he quite rightly said to me, the tiler, if there's a problem, who are you going to come back to, the manufacturer or the tiler? So it's a good question. But also I work at College, and we do have a training hub there. I've put the course details in the chat here. You can have a look at it. It's the Net Zero Hub, and hopefully we'll have one of these meetings over at the Wandsworth site, and people can come and have a look at the training hub. We're working closely with the job centre, and we're looking at people that were skilled in electricians and roofers that want to retrain, that are currently unemployed, to see whether or not they want to retrain in some of these courses. Because when we speak to electricians, they say, well, they've got so much on, they're so busy, they can't really think about sort of diversifying into solar or some of the other things. They've got so much work on. So we need a shift in that to attract new people in, to maybe create a task force that have a different mindset to tackle some of the training needs and vacancies and so on. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Just to answer your first question on sustainable materials, you're absolutely right. Trying to get and shift, and I work with a lot of professional building contractors. My father was a builder for 35 years. There's a lot of really interesting discussion and work going on how to support the building trade pivoting. One thing that's really interesting is, and I work with local builders in Wandsworth, is that they start to realize the benefits to their own health of working with these materials on a project. And I can honestly say that my father's long-term health working with certain materials on site definitely impacted his long-term employee health. I worked with a builder recently in Wandsworth who are really interested in pivoting because, for example, hemp and wood fibre insulation is not only easier for them to use, they realised it was very, very simple to adopt, but they didn't have to wear any PPP, protective material. That appealed enormously to them in terms of their own health on site. And I can even speak for Matt here in our group that he also had the same in terms of upskilling contractors when he works on projects. You have to invest that time. And my view is that if homeowners can also help support changes with the builders that they employ, they can see the benefits long term. There is a lot of change happening. Obviously, we have the Building Safety Act post Grenfell, which is also looking and investigating several of the existing materials that we know exist at the moment that builders have used for several decades. And we are going to have to see a shift in why sustainable materials are better all round. It's coming slowly, but there are a lot of kind of positive stories. I love South Thames College and your retrofit training as well. I know of it very well. I've just worked with Waltham Forest, for example, supporting their retrofit skills centre, which is the largest in London that's just opened. The college received outstanding recently. I just took 10 of their students on work experience for 3 days to Future Build last week to just give those students an awareness of the retrofit industry and how much opportunity there is for them out there. So I'm really big believer in what colleges can provide existing professionals a chance to pivot as well as emerging professionals. But you're right, if you've got an electrician, a plumber who are consistently busy, how does the training that they need at the moment is also trying to factor in the loss of a day's rate. You know, how do you get people to stop working for a day's pay and actually retrain? So there's an extensive amount of research to try and incentivize. A lot of that training is free for people with a CIOB or CITB, so they don't have to pay for that training, which is fantastic. And also what we're finding with professional women in construction is the chance to do impactful work and retrofit work and sustainable work is actually incentive enough to make them pivot into this sector. So lots of little steps needed, but I hope that helps a little, Margaret.
It's great. And yes, I went to Future Build too. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Ellora, for the presentation and for answering the questions as well. And we can come back to this later on if we've got some time at the end. But we're going to move on to the next bit of the agenda, which is Stuart Duncan from Sustainable Ventures, who's going to talk about the Spark Wandsworth programme. So Stuart, over to you.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to share a little bit more information about a new programme that we have in Wandsworth called Spark Wandsworth. In case you didn't catch my name, I am Stuart Duncan. I'm a Senior Venture Associate at Sustainable Ventures. If you don't know who Sustainable Ventures are, and I don't blame you for that at all, I'll tell you a little bit about what we do now. We are effectively the home of climate tech in London, but also in the UK. Since 2011, we've created Europe's largest cluster of climate tech startups, and we support startups in 4 different ways, from, as we say, beer mat to exit. So very early stage companies all the way through to those that are scaling and sort of bringing a lot of jobs to the capital. We do that. The 4 ways that we support them are around sort of a beautiful workspace that we have here at County Hall, where I'm based now, right next to the London Eye. So we're home to around 150 sort of startups here, from hot desks through to larger office spaces. We provide venture development support as well. So that's otherwise known as business support services. That can be government funded or maybe local authority funded. We provide investment as well to those startups at various different stages of the development. And we also provide commercialization services. So that might be support with grant writing. We have an in-house design team and various other services as well, which hopefully provide sort of a full service ecosystem for any businesses or SMEs that are working in sustainability or climate more broadly. As I mentioned, we have our London HQ in County Hall, so right next to Waterloo and the London Eye, and it's home to over 150 startups. We have about 800 or so in our wider ecosystem, and then we're expanding sort of nationally. We've just opened a location in Manchester, so it's a really exciting time for this particular sector. But one of the things we love to do most is support people that are starting new climate initiatives or new climate innovations, and something around sort of the theme of sustainability as well. So we're delighted to be piloting one part of our program called Spark with Wandsworth Council. And yeah, this is very much focused on sort of climate and sustainability businesses in the borough. I will tell you a little bit more about the program in a second, and I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for sort of questions as well. So this is being led by Sustainable Ventures and is funded by Wandsworth Council. And really what the program provides is business support to those very early stage SMEs that are addressing the impacts of climate change, either in their local borough or across the capital, or maybe even sort of further afield than that. So I guess the question to you is, if you or someone you know is working on a business in that area and has the potential to move the dial on climate change, we'd really love to hear from you and hopefully have the opportunity to support you on your business journey. The Spark program itself provides access to an online library of industry-leading venture development tools that we've been sort of pulling together over the last 8 years. Alongside that online library, you also get the chance to connect with the other entrepreneurs that are participating in the program. We're looking for 10 entrepreneurs to participate. We have 5 places already sort of assigned, and we're looking for the final 5 incredible sort of entrepreneurs from Wandsworth to participate. So if you do know anyone, please do keep this in mind. And you also get an opportunity to connect with the innovation experts that we have in-house here at Sustainable Ventures. The program is going to be running for 3 months, so you get full access to that library of tried and tested tools and templates and webinars and everything else for that period of time. And then within that, the curriculum covers 5 key business development topics. Those topics cover problem solution fit, they cover finance, fundraising, marketing and operations. And what that really allows you to do is build out a very strong foundation to your business. And within each of those sort of 5 key topics, we have probably around 20 or so, if not more, in-depth modules. So lots of different sort of information that you can learn under each of those topics that I just mentioned. Outside of the online library, you get that one-to-one expert support. So each company gets, I think, at least 1 hour of tailored business support on a topic of their choice from an expert at Sustainable Ventures. That can either be sort of online or in person. We also have drop-in clinics as well. So we've got 2 one-hour drop-in clinics. So hopefully you can begin to network and connect with other people that are working on similar businesses to you, which we know from our experience is a massive value add to anyone that's starting a business from scratch. And then at the end of the program, so the end of that 3-month period, there'll be a networking event where we'll bring everyone together that's been participating in the program, invite lots of other relevant stakeholders from the local area, and try to understand what your next steps can be and where we can signpost you to help you on that next part of your business journey too. Now, with anyone that sort of joins a business support program at Sustainable Ventures, very rarely is it the only thing that they end up doing with us. So this is often a foot in the door to other types of support that we offer. So if you are starting a business, this is a perfect place to start. And then as your business grows, hopefully we can signpost you to other programs that we're running and sort of join you on that business journey. The eligibility criteria are kind of reasonably low. You have to be based in the London Borough of Wandsworth. You have to be working on a business that has sustainability or climate at its core. You have to be looking to develop your idea, products or concepts. And it really is sort of open to anyone. Ideally, you'll be registered with Companies House so that we can look to support you in that capacity. It is also open to CICs, charities, sole traders. So really, if you are working on any aspect of a business that's sort of moving the dial on climate change, we really would love to hear from you. Importantly, the program is free to join as well. So this is funded by Wandsworth Council at no cost to you. The application process is also very simple. So we ask you just to sort of follow the link that I'll put in the chat in a second, and sort of fill in a very short application form that generates a registration form for you to sign. We'll jump on a very sort of short 15-minute call with you just to get to know a little bit more about you and your business, and tell you a little bit more about the program, answer any questions that you have. And then it's a case of just enrolling you onto the program and joining the cohort alongside those other 10 companies to begin in April. So the deadline for applications is the 31st of March. We're looking to begin the program in April. So there's still plenty of time to join. And yes, I just saw something pop in the chat. It is free to join, just to sort of reiterate that point again. We will be accepting sort of applications on a rolling basis. We do only have those 5 spaces remaining, but I'm hoping that there's either people on this call today that would really benefit from a program like this, or maybe know of others in the borough that are looking for this type of support. We have a lot of experience that we've gathered over the years. We have some incredible bright people working for Sustainable Ventures who just day to day absolutely love to support people starting new businesses that are working in sustainability and climate change. So please do reach out to me with any questions. If you do know anyone that might be able to benefit, pass it on to them. Or if you'd like to apply for yourself, then please do, and I'll add the URL to do so in the chat. You can see it on the slide here. You can follow the Spark Wandsworth URL there. And I'll also put my contact details there if you just prefer to have a quick conversation before. More than happy to jump on a quick telephone call to tell you even more information and to answer your questions. So I will pause there for any questions. Thank you for giving me a moment to explain more about the program. And thank you once again for the invitation. It's lovely to meet you all.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stuart. And just to say that Sustainable Ventures, the venue that you work from is incredible space. We were lucky enough to go there for a team away day where we were doing lots of planning stuff. And it's a brilliant space and really inspirational as well. So we've got a couple of hands up here. So sorry, I didn't catch your name with a hand up.
Kumar, Kumar. Sorry, I typed it. Okay. Don't know. I can't see the names either. They're all disappeared under my screen.
Oh, okay.
I'm using a small iPad. I don't have a computer. I don't work on a computer, etc. So you have to forgive me. Excellent talk on Spark. A really good idea. I just want to ask one quick question. For example, if you own a cafe, I don't own a cafe, but if I owned a cafe, could I come to you and talk to you about sustainability for my business?
Certainly, I mean, yes, of course, always willing to have conversations. I think for the purposes of the program, we would certainly sort of look at what you're trying to do in the climate and sustainability space. If you're looking to pivot some part of your business model or the way that you operate the cafe, maybe you're looking at the supply chains that you use, the ingredients, the way that you operate, and then certainly, this program could be a great fit for you. And if you're looking to build out the foundation of your business around those 5 key topics that I mentioned, this particular program that we run really lends itself to those that are at the very early stages of their business development journey.
Oh, you'll be really successful. Wandsworth is full of cafes. Sorry.
Great, thank you. We've got a hand up from Adam as well. Adam, if you're speaking, you're on mute still.
Apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you, Stuart. My question was around your support, not just for Spark, but more generally. Do you give support to businesses in the sort of wider sustainability as in sustainable businesses, and the non-environmental side of sustainability. So the more social value, responsible business activity, as you know, how to create governance systems and so add social value when setting up your businesses. Is that something that you help out with?
In other programs that we run, we really do sort of tailor. We've done a lot of work with Lambeth Council in the past, sort of helping everyday businesses with their sustainable sort of strategy. Within this particular program, it's looking at sort of supporting those very early stage companies that are just starting out, maybe have a concept or an idea that they want to develop further, try to get it to a point where it's market ready. And hopefully those 5 key areas of business development that I mentioned just allow you to, as I said before, sort of build out that strong foundation to the business and get things up and running. I think when it comes to other aspects of sustainable businesses, always worth a conversation, and there may be another program that we can signpost you to as well. So please do reach out if that's applicable to you, and we'll certainly sort of assess those on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Stuart. We're going to move on to the next bit, but again, as I said before, we can always come back if there's further questions you think of. So if you do think of anything else, put it in the chat and we can come back to it later. Somebody in the team is keeping an eye on that as well as we go along. But next up, we've got Shafkat. So Shafkat Khokhar, who is a climate microgrant recipient, who is going to talk through what she did with the climate microgrants that she was awarded. So Shafkat, if you could put your camera on. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Shafkat Khokhar, and I'm the admin manager at Wandsworth Asian Women's Centre. And we are an organization for the elderly to combat loneliness and isolation in women. We provide them with an opportunity to come out and meet in a friendly atmosphere, because they don't have much confidence because of lack of language barrier, because of the language barrier, religious or cultural restrictions. So we provide a space for them to come and meet. We started this project. We were looking to start this project, but we didn't have the resources. So the micro grant was a welcome to us. So we jumped on it and we applied for the grant. Our main aim was to teach the ladies to sew, because to reduce wastage. There's a lot of wastage, because in last August we had a fundraiser. We asked ladies to donate things, and when they donated things, there were things that just had still labels on. They were discarded because they weren't able to alter them, and there was sometimes only a slight alteration was required. So we thought we'll use this grant to teach these ladies to sew. Some of them, they get, in this fast fashion world, people are ordering online. They are getting ready-made clothes. Like, though they send their measurements to have them made, but when they come back and they don't fit properly, the ladies, they just discard them. So we thought, just to reduce waste and promote sustainability, we will teach them to reduce this waste. So we started our project with teaching the ladies to sew from scratch. Like, we showed them how to take measurements. We used we used discarded wallpaper to make the patterns, and then they took body measurements. Then they went on to draft a pattern for their selves, and then we moved them on to cutting them on the material. And the project was quite successful, because sometimes it's very expensive to go and get a thing altered or an outfit altered. So it ends up being discarded. So we started this project, and and some of the ladies, they were like looking for small tips to improve their sewing. So we had pretty good sessions we held 5 sessions, and there were about 25 people, like 15 at a time, or a little bit less of the different people coming in, and they learned how to sew, and they went away very happy with it, thanks to the Microgrant grant to us. We did this project in 5 weeks, and the people benefited from it. They enjoyed coming to the center. They enjoyed getting together, enjoyed learning together, and they were very enthusiastic. Their remarks were, "We have always waited for this kind of a project to keep, so that we're able to learn something at a little cost or no cost at all." So that was a welcome from them. And now, if I can share a story of one of our members, she was so enthusiastic that because she loved wearing clothes, but she wanted something that fitted her well. She said, "Oh, I wear so much material or so many outfits because they don't fit me well." So she came to us, and we started a garment with her. And she finished her garment in the 3rd section. And when she came back wearing it, she realized that the shoulders were loose, they were hanging, because when they were taking measurements, we had them in groups, and they were taking each other's measurements to start off with. So she brought change of outfit with her. She sat there, we took it apart, we did the alterations, and she wore it home the same day. And like in these classes, we taught them how to use old material like bed sheets to make tote bags. That they didn't. Some of them said, "Oh, we never knew we could use this material. We thought we just have to, give it away or throw it away." So that was one benefit as well. And then members were surprised, like we could, like if they had less material, there are ways we taught them how to use that material to so that they could cut out an outfit from them. And there were some ladies who they were already sewing, but when they came to the class, they learned some small tips which helped them to improve their sewing. And it really, and the comment was, "We didn't know we could do this way as well." And they had better fit outfits. When we applied for the grant, it was really easy. The forms were really easy to fill, and we were taken up quite quickly, and we were given the grant. And I would recommend it if somebody else is looking into the project, the sewing project. It would help them as well. And our project was so successful that we are still carrying on with the project, because we just thought we will have continuity, and because ladies were enjoying, they were coming out, they were learning new things. And so that's it, I think.
That's brilliant, Shafkat. Thank you very much for sharing the project you worked on, because it's a really brilliant example of climate action in the community and getting people involved in it. So yeah, fantastic. So I think there's a question. I saw a hand go up. I can't see it now. It's gone. But yeah, if there's any questions at all, please do put your hands up. There's an awful lot of applause. I don't know if you can see the icons coming up on the screen, but there's a lot of applause for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's no
small project with ladies, so it involved the ladies, mostly the ladies, and we provided something for them to do. Plus, we provided because we had like I told you, when we saw all that wastage, though we sent off those clothes to charity, but still they could have, if they had the skills, they could have changed, altered those things. And sometimes the alteration was just a slight alteration. So we thought, even though it's a small thing, but we may go a long way in reducing wastage.
Yeah, it's a brilliant project, and thank you very much for sharing with all of us. Really appreciate it. So I think we're going to move on to the next bit, and we're going to turn focus on some of the stuff that the council's doing at the moment. So I'm going to hand over to Torsten. So Torsten, you're going to talk about the Biodiversity Action Plan.
I think Judi wanted to say a
Oh,
couple
yes,
of
sorry.
things
Sorry,
first.
Councillor Gasser. Yes, you're
That's
going
all-
first, and then it's Torsten.
Yeah, I'll just be very brief because I know time is short. So I just want everybody to know that, you know, this is a very, very, very important issue to me, and I've wanted a proper action plan for a long time, you know, that states out what all the issues are in Wandsworth, what we should be doing to mitigate them, how do we protect and increase our biodiversity, and how do we deliver everything that's needed, and then how do we measure the impact of what we've delivered. So Torsten and Enable and officers have been working on this action plan. It's still a work in progress, and I wanted to cover all our green and blue spaces, and it's not just parks and commons, it's cemeteries, it's housing estates, it's our own gardens, it's every bit of green space, and it's every department in the council. You know, planning, how do they help us? How do we use planning regulations to have a more sustainable Wandsworth? What do we do on our housing estates? You know, what about highways? Let's create wildflower verges. You know, let's stop paving over gardens. There's so much we need to do. And it is going to be an iterative process, and we do want your input, and Torsten can speak about how we're going to do that. And we will be discussing it in Environment Committee in June, I hope. And we've got a new way of working in our committees, I hope, which is going to be, we really hope it's going to be much more collaborative and listening to residents and listening to officers and listening to experts and the councillors around the table, discussing and deciding policy, guiding policy together collaboratively. That's the plan. Let's hope it works. So over to Torsten, and I want you to know how ambitious I am on this.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name's Torsten Dreyer. I'm the Head of Arts, Parks and Events for Wandsworth. And I wanted to just talk you through a little bit of where we've got to with the development of a biodiversity action plan and what's coming next. So if you could go to the next slide for me. I'm just going to be sort of slightly looking to the side because I haven't got the speaking notes under this slide at the moment. So really just wanted to talk first about our ambition for biodiversity and nature recovery. So one of the key things here is the corporate priority for creating a more sustainable Wandsworth. And under that sits some commitments around protecting and enhancing the biodiversity of the borough. But it also relates to making the borough a fairer place and making sure that, you know, there is access to nature for all communities across the borough and enabling access to nature for all. So there's a clear driver from some of our corporate priorities, which were co-designed and co-produced with residents and businesses. In 2020, the council adopted a biodiversity strategy, and that sets out the broad vision and sort of direction for biodiversity. And what we want to do with the biodiversity action plan, which is much more action focused and delivery focused, as the name suggests, is to really make that more central to the way we work. And Councillor Gasser has just described some of the ambition around that. And really the plan, the idea behind the biodiversity action plan is to accelerate and expand the delivery of how that sort of connects. And the way we're doing some of this is by creating bringing in additional biodiversity expertise into the council. So at the moment, the biodiversity team sit with Enable, who run our parks and events programs and various other bits and pieces. And on the 1st of April, we are bringing the biodiversity strategic team back in-house, and we're enhancing that with some additional capacity, so we'll have some more roles. And what we really want to do there is use that to work across the council much more effectively and across some of our bigger partners as well, and in partnership with communities. Now, Enable, who run the parks, they will continue to deliver things like improvement in parks and volunteering and things like that. So that will stay with them, but kind of thinking about how we make this happen on a bigger level, that will come into the council. So it's about accelerating, expanding the delivery. And then in terms of kind of partnership working, that's the next bit really. And I think this is where bringing some of this in-house and coming to a forum like this can really help us, because really this requires everyone to work together and to collaborate and do things across different organizations. We have major landowners other than the council in the borough. You know, there are NHS sites, for example. There are some major private landowners as well. And how can we all work together? Because nature doesn't stop at the edges of those sites. You know, you need to create corridors across those sites. Obviously, very important, you know, individual households and on their own, or residents on their own as householders or in groups, how can you contribute to some of this, and how can we support you, and how can other agencies to support you, and then some of the strategic agencies, you know, like the Environment Agency, etc. And then the last element there is around how we connect this into the London-wide local nature recovery strategy, which is a new document that's being developed by the GLA across London, and that also recognises that some of this work around nature recovery has to stretch across borough boundaries, and how do we make that happen? If you could go to the next slide for me. So, as I said, so in terms of the next steps, we've started some of the work, because Enable have started to do some drafting and have an outline plan. We had some internal workshops with departments from across the council, bringing together planning and housing and other departments to really think about how we can work better internally across. And now we want to take this outside. So from April, we'll have the capacity to do some of this work within the council. And so between April and June, we want to engage much more widely on ideas, generating ideas for what such a plan could do and how it should look and what the contributions might be, but always thinking back to, you know, what is the overall direction the strategy gives us. And then in the autumn of 2025, that plan, having engaged a wide variety of groups and people, we will then adopt that, and then we will start to implement it from the winter onwards. If you could go to the next slide, please. So in terms of what you can do, so we will be publicising some more details about how you can get involved in it and what the engagement might be. But what we'd also really love to know is who else should be involved. So who else should we contact and tell them about this happening, so that we can get their ideas. And in particular, we're interested in community groups that work in this area, but also if you know there are bigger landowners who might really benefit from this, but also things like higher education and further education colleges. There was talk about in the chat about the college earlier, and again, I think some of these organizations might have a role in this, because we want to also think about this in terms of skills for the green economy. You know, tell others that we're doing this piece of work so they can look out for it, and think about what you could do and how you could contribute, and what you do already could become part of the plan. And I saw the question earlier, you know, the little project that some people were saying, can this become bigger? And actually hearing about those things is really important. There might be really exciting things happening that we don't know about. The last bit is, unfortunately, I sort of have to slightly ask you to hold fire, but start to think, and then from the 1st of April, the team will be ready and in-house, and we can start to receive your ideas, and then we'll also start to kind of probably sort of from the middle of April onwards, start to be able to tell you more about how the engagement, how you can become involved. There'll certainly be things on our engagement hub, that's an online portal, but we'll also make sure that we can let you know through this forum. I can see there's a question about allotment groups. Yes, obviously that will form part of that, because the allotments continue to be managed through Enable, and we will make sure that any Friends of Parks groups, management advisory committees, allotment groups will get that information through those channels. So we have those connections already. what I'm asking here in a way is for the people that we might not know about, that have really exciting projects going on that might be worth scaling up, or thinking about how we can make those more, how we can spread the word about those so others might do similar things. So I think that's it from me. I hope I haven't extended my time there.
Nope,
Andrew.
that is fantastic, Torsten. Thank you very much. I'm now going to move on to a bit of an update on some of the wider climate change work that we've been doing. So I'm going to talk about the Climate Action Plan update and refresh, talk about the Wandsworth Retrofit strategy and the Adaptation Resilience strategy we've done as well. And then after that, we'll have time for questions and discussion. So we'll do questions then. Just a little bit about sort of our approach to tackling climate change, just as a reminder of sort of like what we do around it. So there's 3 key strands to what we do. One is about becoming a carbon neutral organisation by 2030. Another one is about creating an environment that is low carbon, sustainable and resilient. And then it's also about working with communities so that they can take action on climate change. And obviously that's a really big part of that. And combined, these are all going to take us towards our target of being a net zero borough by 2043. And some of the stuff that we've done, this is a very quick whistle-stop tour of like a couple of bits, basically. We've delivered more bike hanger storage. So we've got 1,374 bike hanger spaces across the borough. We've done anti-idling campaigns as well to target air pollution in hotspot areas. We've delivered warm home packs to help with reducing energy use and tackling fuel poverty. That's been delivered to 1,500 households. Other stuff we've done has been we've got 7 green flag parks in the borough with a new green flag for Coronation Gardens. That's a really sort of big marker around sort of the quality of green spaces and parks. We delivered the Cleaner Borough Plan, which has seen increased cycling rates, and also we've got a new lower emission waste fleet as well that's collecting the rubbish, which is great for air quality and also for carbon emissions in the borough. And also, as you've heard from Shafkat, we've done climate action microgrants supporting people to carry out projects across the borough. And also we had Sustainable September, which was a month-long showcase of climate action in the borough, and that went really, really well as well. So there's loads more stuff that we've done across the year. We do have like an annual report that we do, and so that's available online. So hopefully somebody will put a link to that in the chat, where you can dig into a bit more about all the stuff that we've done. That's just a bit of a taster. One of the really big things that we've worked on over the past year and that we're really pleased has been sort of completed is a Wandsworth retrofit strategy. So just under half of carbon emissions in Wandsworth comes from domestic housing. So in terms of hitting our net zero target, it's a really important thing that we need to tackle. And Ellora as well sort of spoke about that at the start of the meeting, about the importance of retrofit and the many benefits that come from retrofit. So we need to increase retrofit across the borough so we can reduce those carbon emissions. There's a lot of challenges around retrofit. So there's skills. Funding is a really, really big challenge on it as well, because it does take a lot of funding to be able to deliver this. And so what we've done is develop a strategy which provides that context around the situation around retrofit, what it looks like within Wandsworth and what we need to do in the future, what some of our ambition is as an organisation and what we need to try to do around retrofit to hit those targets around net zero as well, and set that direction of travel for retrofit. And importantly, it sets out the role of the council in this. And what we can do to push it all forward. We can't deliver retrofit ourselves completely for the whole borough. It's far too big for that. Also, it involves people's own homes, private housing, which we don't necessarily have direct control over. So it's about how can we, as a local authority, promote it, encourage it, support it, and make sure that that is happening within the borough as well. So there's 5 key bits to the Wandsworth retrofit strategy. One is around looking at our social housing. So this is about how can we bring in some funding that's available externally, and what are the opportunities for retrofit in our social housing stock, and also how do we engage with social housing residents around that as well to make sure that they're brought along. It's not done to them, it's done with them. And that's a really important part of it. Private sector housing, so it's looking at how do we provide that information on retrofit for residents, how do we encourage them to take it up. Also then, how do we support those who are struggling to pay their fuel bills, and how do we engage with landlords as well? There's an awful lot of private rented housing within Wandsworth. It's a really, really high bit for London, and so we need to make sure that we're doing stuff around that. We're also looking at some slightly more innovative approaches around this as well. So we're looking at place-based approaches. So how can we retrofit whole areas? So how can we take streets and do retrofit for the whole area to get sort of, it could be much more efficient to do that, and benefits get realized for whole communities as well. Also looking at how we can identify heat networks. That's a really good way of providing low carbon heat for big areas, and also promoting community energy. So that's another part of this, is how do you get community energy up and running? How do you promote that even further? We're also looking at funding, so how we can bring in that external funding to drive retrofit, and then also looking at the skills as well. What are the skills we need? How do we support those skills? And so that's all covered in the Wandsworth retrofit strategy, and that's one of the priority areas that we're going to be working on, is how do we deliver that over the next 5 years. So something else we've been working on is around adaptation and resilience as well. So we've created an adaptation and resilience strategy. So we face a changing climate. That's the reality of the situation that we're in. And so we have to prepare for this. We need to build the resilience of our infrastructure and our communities. So the adaptation and resilience strategy that we've developed presents the climate risk and vulnerability assessment for the borough. So what it does is look at where the risks are, what they are, and the communities that are going to be impacted by that as well. And also looking at what are the longer term projections around a changing climate in different scenarios, and what are some of the risks that come forward from that. So it provides a framework so we can take really robust and consistent action on adaptation to a changing climate, and it sets out some of those long-term priorities to guide and inform the council's work as well. So in terms of some of the areas we're looking at, so we're looking at how do we embed adaptation and resilience across the organisation. So the council touched on lots and lots of different things. We need to make sure we've got that climate adaptation and resilience, and it's a standard thing that we're thinking about as the council. And we also need to make sure that there's this joined up approach to adaptation and resilience, so we can make sure we're maximising the impact of projects, and also increasing the capacity of the council to build a more resilient borough. So how do we bring teams together within the council? How do we work with partners that are outside the council as well? Thinking about the projects we're doing, how can we increase the resilience of those? One of the things we're also doing is compiling and analysing the data that we need so we can effectively adapt to climate change. We need to understand how the climate is changing, and then what that means for us and how we need to do things differently in the face of that changing climate. And it's not clear sort of exactly how the climate is going to change, so we need to keep an eye on that and monitor that as we go along. And that's part of that fifth bullet points there, is around ensuring that formal monitoring and evaluation of adaptation and resilience. So when we've done stuff, has it delivered what we want it to deliver, and is it still delivering against a changing climate and differing changing scenarios? And so it's stuff about, we need to be dynamic about it, we need to think about it flexibly, but we need to keep an eye on it and make sure that we're making those changes. And then it's also about implementing effective adaptation and resilient measures across the borough, and especially targeting those areas that have got the highest climate risk. So those are the two main strategies. We've also got an action plan that we've set out, and this kind of focuses on delivering that adaptation and resilience work, delivering the retrofit strategy, and also about working with our communities and partners on climate action. There's lots of other stuff we're doing around how do we decarbonise our buildings as the council. There's also the stuff that Torsten was talking about in terms of that biodiversity action plan, looking at how we roll out the second phase of the Cleaner Borough Plan, so increasing waste collection and recycling rates, and thinking about how we do that better. Also doing other stuff around sort of EV charging, cycling infrastructure, school streets, and that's just kind of a taste of some of the things we're going to be doing. There's an awful lot more we're going to be doing, but I'm going to stop now because I would like to have some chance for some questions. So we've got some hands up here. So Kumar, do you want to go first? You're the first one with the hand up.
Yeah, this was a question for Thorsten. Nice to meet you, Thorsten. And I just wanted to know, as head of parks and events, etc., for Wandsworth and Wandsworth Common, Tootingbeck Common, not so long ago, Wandsworth or Enable put a license together, or tried to get a license for half a dozen alcohol events, an alcohol license for some of the commons, for the big events that they want to hold on the common. I don't understand. That was dropped after a lot of complaints, etc. But I don't understand why it even came about, you know, with biodiversity, nature, and being the important topic, sustainability. Why did the council even consider that large events should be suitable for the commons? Our common land is sacred to most people in Wandsworth, and is used for everything, for play, for sport, for children, etc., walking, running, everything. And why would they even consider trying to apply for lots of licenses for huge events to be held on these commons, which in order to make money, as if it's Battersea Park, where they do hold big events, and they always have, and that is a big money earner for Wandsworth. Why did they decide, or why did you decide that Wandsworth, you know, the areas of Tooting Common, Wandsworth Common, etc., should be applying for alcohol licenses and having huge events? You know, that doesn't fit in with your policy and your strategy of biodiversity, nature, looking after the open spaces that we have. I don't understand why it even came about. Hopefully in the future this won't happen again.
I'll respond initially, but Councillor, if you want to join me at some point, feel free. What I wanted to say is, so the event application was from Enable as part of their London Borough of Culture programme, and any local authority will try to balance those kind of things around, you know, enabling, facilitating events in parks and open spaces, but at the same time protecting the landscapes and protecting the biodiversity features. Now, these applications were withdrawn, and there are currently applications in for one-off events for the London Borough of Culture year only, and those are currently going through the licensing process. And that is
for alcohol licenses again. Is that what you mean?
So not for Tooting Common. No, those have been withdrawn, haven't they?
What about Wandsworth Common?
Sorry. Councillor Gasser.
So there are no current licence applications from Enable for Wandsworth Common, and I'm not expecting them to put any in. Battersea Park, it was for a dance event in the afternoon. Tooting Common, there is an application in for one weekend for a country music event, and we are consulting on it. Well, you know, the licensing committee, which isn't me, they will look at what people have to say about it. So it is a consultation process. People can feed in their views about Tooting Common, and again, it's one weekend only. And I have today asked officers to really focus on the biodiversity, protecting the biodiversity on Tooting Common if this goes ahead.
Yeah,
thank you.
And then adding to that, the executive approved a draft events in parks policy at the beginning of March, and that will go out to consultation very shortly. And that is an update to the existing policy, which was adopted back in 2014, and it actually puts some stronger protections in relation to biodiversity into the policy. So that will go out to consultation as well in due course, and we'll publicise when that is the case. And then we would invite everyone to comment on those as well and feedback. And that's about kind of looking at it from a broader perspective, because we want to make sure that we go beyond what the licensing process requires.
Yeah. And also, if you can remember that 2014 climate change.
If we can
wasn't
move
even a
on,
big
because there's
topic.
lots of other people with hands up. So
Sorry.
Adam,
Okay,
you're next.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrew, I'm sorry if this is in one of the published documents, but for the carbon neutrality by 2030, what level of that is expected to be required through offsets, and what
As little as possible.
What type of offsetting is being looked at as a requirement?
So the idea is that we will reduce emissions as much as we possibly can, and minimise any offsetting. We haven't looked massively at all the different options around it because it's still a few years off. We're kind of focusing our efforts on what do we need to do to reduce emissions as much as we possibly can. So, for example, there's a decarbonisation strategy that's going to be published in June-ish, June-July. I can't remember the exact date, and that's going to set out a pathway around how we decarbonise our buildings. We're also we've put in applications for external funding to help really drive that forward as well. But we're anticipating we'll have very minimal offsets.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Next is Paula.
Hi, I'm Malsara. Paula's sitting right next to me.
Hi.
Hello there. Right, my question is, I mean, you've got some wonderful projects going on here. Wandsworth's getting involved with climate action plans. What I want to know is, are there any job opportunities going? I know quite a lot of people volunteering at the moment in this sphere, but I think people need to be paid for some things. And I'm just wondering, is there A, any funding available, and B, is anyone looking for any real good talented people to work in this sphere?
So I think we touched on some of the stuff around green skills a little bit earlier. So in terms of retrofit, there's opportunities there, definitely. And there's wider green skills as well around some of the stuff where if we need to do more biodiversity, we're going to need more people to be able to do that and provide that. I think there's opportunities as well around some of that circular economy stuff where if there's increase in sort of like repair and fixing, there's potentially job opportunities there. So there is stuff there. There is funding that comes up from external sources that we try to access as the council. But yeah, there are growing opportunities, I think, there.
Okay, and I take it you're mainly relying on volunteers to support you rather than paid jobs, right?
Well, where we can create employment, that's great. I mean, sort of in terms of the team that we have in the council, that has expanded, but it's a mix of communities getting involved and volunteering and doing some of that, but also an increase in green skills and green employment, where people can take some of those skills they develop and apply them in paid positions. But it's not necessarily stuff that we as the council are going to directly employ lots of people to do this, but there are opportunities there. For example, I know we've got, I think I saw Steve from Cllr earlier, and there's opportunities that they have created around employment and funding and things like that. So it's not necessarily going to be through the council, but there is that sort of ecosystem of green skills that is developing a bit more.
Thank you.
Graham, you're next.
Thanks. I hope you can hear me. I'm actually on the phone in a noisy foyer, but yeah, just a couple of questions. First one is the document you referred to, the retrofit strategy, as well as the adaptation strategy. Is that available on the council website? Are we going to be able to
Yes.
look at the detail on that? And the second one is around the target. I mean, the carbon neutral target by 2030 is what? 5 years away. So I'm assuming there's a clear picture already mapped out in terms of how that's going to be delivered, particularly around the council's social housing stock. We've got what, 18,000 properties. That's a huge number, and I don't know if that's currently being kind of thought through, or whether we're waiting for that in the decarbonisation strategy in the summer. And if so, is that going to be out for consultation prior to it being finalised?
Yeah, so the retrofit strategy and adaptation resilience strategy are published online. They're published in the committee documents. We're just getting them designed up so they look a bit prettier and easier to read. And once they're finished, then they're going to go up on our website, which yeah, so they'll be available soon. But there are links where you can read through the text of it at the moment. In terms of carbon neutral 2030, yeah, we're doing a decarbonisation strategy that's going to set out how much we can decarbonise our buildings and how much money it's going to take as well, and a bit of projection around that sort of stuff. And so that's going to be available in June, July, and that'll set out a bit more of a picture in terms of the trajectory that we can follow in terms of reducing our carbon emissions down substantially, and how we can fund some of that, including, hopefully we'll know by then about if we've got any external funding to be able to deliver some of this as well.
And sorry, will that be consultation process?
No, there's not going to be consultation on the decarbonisation strategy. That's for council buildings. In terms of social housing, so the social housing team are working on more detailed plans about how we decarbonise our social housing stock. I would say that the social housing stock is not fully part of our 2030 carbon neutral target, because we don't sort of control the emissions that come from within tenants bits, because they are responsible for their energy use. But it's yes, that's not part of that 2030 target. Right, Pat, you've got a question, and that I'm afraid that will probably have to be the final question.
Okay, better make it a good one then, hadn't I? I did have a further question about the resilience and adaptation, but I'll ask about on the biodiversity action plan. You know, there was a lot of discussion there about, and I welcome the enthusiasm, but there was a lot of discussion there about how householders can be supported. However, you know, there's also an issue about how people are held to account for doing what I describe as bad shit on their plot of land. And, you know, we already, I assume, have planning regs around paving over front gardens, for instance, that don't seem to be being followed up particularly robustly. And I wondered whether bringing the team in-house was actually going to make that a little bit more satisfactory, a little bit of monitoring perhaps a little bit easier.
So from a monitoring perspective, there's a real challenge there, and I think if because we can't be everywhere all the time, obviously, because it's a small team of about 2 or 3 people, what I would suggest to anyone, if you are aware that there are breaches, those need to report it through the planning enforcement process, because that's the first point of contact with any concerns around planning policy not being adhered to. And we can probably share how you report a suspected planning breach. What would then happen is different officers from different departments would then be part of the investigation, but the first point of contact in terms of those sort of things would be around the planning enforcement function of the council.
Okay.
But we can probably share that with the group, so you know how to do that when you spot it.
Right. And there are no equivalent planning regs around gardens. I mean, I'm thinking about the terrible kind of increase in plastic lawns and sort of rather, you know, biodiversity degraded back gardens.
I'll just chip in. I don't think there are any regulations about that at the moment, Pat. We have just got a new sustainability, I don't know if it's the right way, planning sustainability officer. And it's something I would hope to discuss with her. Can we bring in what they call the supplementary planning documents, you know, to help our aims, my agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Unfortunately, generally, it's covered under permitted development that you can do stuff like that in your back garden. There's no kind of restrictions on it.
So there are restrictions at the front, but not at the back. Interesting. Okay, thank you.
So we have gone 2 minutes over, and I don't want to keep you from, because you're probably going to be wanting to go off and have your dinner at some point soon. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. There's been some really, really, really good discussions, really excellent questions. I think there's probably some in the chat that we haven't managed to get to, so apologies for that. We have been a bit short on time to be able to get through absolutely everything, but really do appreciate your time, appreciate your questions, and especially appreciate all the presenters who've come along to speak this evening. There's some really fantastic examples of work that's going on across the borough. So yeah, thank you very much to everyone, and
can we have more events like this, please?
We do these regularly. We have at least 3 a year.
More.
Yeah.
We need to know what's going on in Wandsworth Council. We need to know what you're all up to. Thank you. It was great. Great.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Really good.
Hope to see you in person at a future event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.